In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
It is 100% real. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Curious Dimension podcast. I am your host, Matt Barone. My guest today is Dan Harary. Dan is the co-founder of the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. Dan is best known for his 40-plus years of work in Hollywood as an entertainment industry publicist and owner since 1996. Dan has worked with hundreds of famous celebrities from movies, TV, music, and pop culture since the age of 15 in 1972. Including a pre-famed Bruce Springsteen. Dan is a published author, and in 2022, he released his Hollywood memoir, Flirting with Fame, Hollywood Publicist Recalls 50 Years of Celebrity Close Encounters. Today, we're going to talk with Dan about some of his own paranormal experiences. I really enjoyed talking with Dan today. I hope you guys enjoy it. Without further ado, here's Dan Harary.
Okay, great. I'm doing good, thank you. It's nice to see you. It's nice to hang with you a little bit.
Yeah.
Last night I was on Fox TV LA for a little while, promoting I have two brand new books that just came out here, My Paranormal Life and a thriller called Five. And I was on the news last night. All my friends watched me, and I've been a Hollywood publicist for 40 years, so I've been making other people famous for 40 years. And now, just in the last 2 years, I've been promoting myself, and it's a whole new experience.
I'm sure, but you've got that knowledge base in there. You know how the inner workings of that whole industry. You've had an interesting life. I mean, you're originally from New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey as well originally. Born and raised, went to college there. You started off in Asbury Park, correct? And you were promoting some celebrities in that area, like Bruce Springsteen and other people, correct?
I grew up in Asbury Park, New Jersey. My parents were from Brooklyn. They married in 1952. My dad then worked for Fort Monmouth Army Base in Belmar, which was just next to Asbury Park. They moved to Asbury Park. I was born there, and my whole childhood was there. And during high school, I had very long hair. I was a drummer. I was in rock bands. And my best friend and I happened to luck out, and we became the stage managers at a now legendary concert hall there called the Sunshine Inn. Everyone's heard of the Stone Pony because of Bruce Springsteen. Long before the Stone Pony was the Sunshine Inn.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take a quick second to thank everybody who's been tuning into the shows. If you haven't already hit that like button or hammered that subscribe button, please do that now. It really helps the algorithm to let this show reach a wider audience. And please leave me a comment in the bottom. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Much love, guys.
And my friend and I ran that place for 3 years in high school.
Wow.
We used to ride our bikes there. We didn't drive. We did stage crew and stage lighting, and we worked with Bruce. It's a great story, man. It was February 1973. It was 2 years before Born to Run. It was the week his very first album just came out. And we knew him, my friends and I knew him, because he was a bar band guitar guy for years. We saw him hitchhiking around town for years. We saw him on the beach for years. We saw him at bars and clubs for years. There's Bruce. It's like he's a guy. He's like a regular guy. So we worked with him. The funny part, Matt, after that concert, it was February 10th, 1973. We worked the concert with him. At the end of that concert, Clarence Clemens, who had just joined the band that week, came up to my friend Steve and I, and he goes, "Hey, you guys did a great job. This is a true story. Do you want to be our road crew? Bruce and I, we need a road crew to go with us. We're going to Washington, D.C. This weekend. Do you want to come with us?" To which I said, "Clarence, we're only 16. We don't drive yet. And I'm pretty sure our fathers want us to go to college." We turned down Bruce Springsteen. True story.
Wow. Not a bad gig, though.
Nah, I don't know. I did other things. But I worked with Kiss before they were famous. I worked with Fleetwood Mac before they were famous. A lot of major 70s bands. Humble Pie, Deep Purple, Jay Giles, Edgar Winter, Mott the Hoople. It was a who's who of 70s rock. And I was a drummer and a rock kid, and I was in heaven. I was in heaven all through high school. I never got paid, But I used to get free tickets for the shows, and I'd sneak my friends. We'd open the backstage door, and like all our girlfriends and stuff would come in. So we snuck people in.
Wow.
So it was a lot of fun, and it makes for great stories now.
Very cool. Those stories are priceless, and you'll have those forever. I'd love to talk a little bit about your books you've got coming out, and you've had some wild experiences in your life. Maybe we could talk a little bit about how you got into the paranormal and the UFO topic. Maybe you can take us through that genesis a little bit.
Publicist for 40 years. My career has been in the entertainment industry. I grew up in Harary. I went to Boston University, studied communications. Howard Stern was there when I was there. I got a job in Manhattan after college. I worked at Columbia Pictures. I worked with Brooke Shields for a while. Then I moved out here in '80. I was a young kid. I had no money, no car, no job, no nothing. But over the years, I stumbled into Hollywood PR because I'm a good writer and I'm creative and I'm outgoing. I developed a PR career. This year is my 40th anniversary, literally 40th year this year in PR. I have my own PR agency. I've worked with hundreds of celebrities and stuff. And my first book came out 2 years ago called Flirting with Fame. That's the green poster behind me. And Flirting with Fame is about my wacky, dopey, off-the-wall Hollywood stories. And my favorite one, Matt, is when I met Meryl Streep. I was so nervous, I called her Carla. I'm shaking Meryl Streep's hand. And I said, hello, Carla, it's nice to meet you, because Carla was the woman standing next to me. And I was so flustered. I'm shaking Meryl Streep, the most famous woman in the planet at the time. Hi, Carla, my name is Dan. So that's a wonderful story. I have millions of stories, wacky stories. Okay, so that's my Hollywood career. That's how I made a living. That's allowed me to send 2 kids to college, pay for my divorce, and live in Beverly Hills. So that's my career. Concurrently, and on a separate railroad track my entire life, I've had paranormal experiences from the age of 5. Not related to my Hollywood work, really. It's apples and oranges. It's a separate track. Let's do the UFO part first. In March 1970, here's the genesis of my renown, so to speak, of the last 2 years. In March 1970, I was 14 years old. My father one day drove me home from school, Matt. It was daylight. I'm in my dad's car. He's driving me home from school. And I look through the windshield, and I see a huge UFO hovering over my father's car. It's a silver V, like letter V, like Victor. Huge, like a pyramid of Egypt. Shiny silver, huge, and just hovering above my father's car for no apparent reason. And I go, Dad, stop the car. There's a UFO. Dad, stop the car. He stopped the car. We got out. We stood in front of the car. And I'm looking, and I'm jumping up and down. Dad, isn't this cool? I'm not even 14. Look at this. Dad, isn't that cool? It's a UFO. And it's just hovering there. No propellers, no smoke, no sound, just hovering like a butterfly, this huge thing right above us in daylight. And my dad looked at it like he was bored to tears, like he'd seen it 100 million times. He looked at it like this. Yeah. Couldn't care less, right? And that always amazed me, right? No reaction of any kind. Looking at it a few minutes. Then he goes, come on, kid, let's go home. Okay, so we go home. This is 1970. We had a rotary phone. I go to the kitchen in the rotary phone. I call the Asbury Park Press newspaper. I go, hi, my name is Danny. I just saw a UFO with my dad. The lady said, Sonny, I can't talk to you right now. We're getting hundreds of phone calls about this. I have to go. Okay. No story ever ran in the paper. I looked. Now, the interesting thing, Matt, is that I forgot that had happened. I forgot that story for 47 years. Completely forgot that happened for 47 years. Now, along the way, I had 2 other UFO sightings. In '96, I saw a UFO with my son in Lancaster, California, high desert, near Edwards Air Force Base. It's where my ex-wife moved with my kids after my divorce. I had gotten him a telescope for his 8th birthday. We're looking at the sky, and then we see planets and the moon and all the cool stuff. And then there's a bright, egg-shaped, yellow-white thing lights up in the sky, and it goes all the way across the sky in a straight line very fast. And I said, Jordan, look, there's a satellite, because it had to be. This had to be. It goes all the way across the sky, Matt. Then it stopped for 20, 30 seconds in place. And I said, oh, my God, the satellite's going to fall to Earth. Something's very wrong. And then it decided to turn around, and then it went all the way back the way it came from. So I don't know what can do that in 1996. It's not a comet or a meteor or a plane or a helicopter. It wasn't a helicopter. So that was my second one. I think that was military because it was near Edwards. The third UFO I saw was a profound experience. I went to, are you familiar with James Gilliland, ESETI Ranch?
Yeah, I'm familiar with ESETI Ranch, yes. And yes, I am familiar with James, yes.
Okay, so I joined MUFON in 2007 because I went to a paranormal bookstore and I saw all these cool books about UFOs and aliens and crop circles. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know this stuff existed. So my modern era of paranormal really started the day I went to that bookstore, 2007. And I joined MUFON because I had never heard of it. And my very first MUFON meeting, SoCal meeting, Matt, was Giorgio Tsoukalos. He was the very first guest speaker.
Mm-hmm.
This is 2 years before Ancient Aliens was on TV. He does 90 minutes about ancient alien theory, and he's showing slides and films and talking about the pyramids and the Nazca lines and Travis Walton and Betty and Barney and UFOs in the Bible and Renaissance art. And he's doing Easter Island. He's doing the greatest, Eric Von Daniken's greatest hits. Now, I had never in my life heard of any of this stuff, okay, in 2007.
So you're getting your mind blown.
Matt, so 90 minutes. I'm like this. I have a tear. I'm like, this is the most amazing information I've ever heard in my entire life. At the end, I go up to him. I hugged him. I go, Giorgio, you just literally changed my view of the world just now. You changed my, you go, cool, man. That's cool. It's all smoke and mirrors. Okay.
Right.
A year later, at a MUFON SoCal meeting was James Gilliland. He did a talk about the ESETI Ranch, which he owns. It's in Washington State at the base of Mount Adams. Mount Adams is one mountain down from Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier, as we all know, is where Kenneth Arnold saw his UFOs in June 47.
Coined flying saucers, correct?
He said they looked like a saucer skipping on the water, and the local newspaper called it a flying saucer. So he created 50% of the term flying saucer. That is, he never did say those words, but that's how it was reported. So anyway, Gilliland, MUFON meeting, he goes, I have this ranch. Now, it wasn't called ESETI in 08. It was called just the James Gilliland property. Mm-hmm. Now it's called ECETI. And he's showing all these videos of UFOs above his property, one after the next, and they're clear. These are not blurry, horrible. These are like, wow, oh my God. So I'm watching this with a girlfriend, and he goes, I'm having an open house July 4th weekend, 08, 3 days. Come and hang with me. I go, my girlfriend, can we go, please? I want to go. Can we go? She was, yeah, okay, we'll go. So I schlepped my girlfriend, her name was Barbara. I schlepped Barbara out there. And for 3 days, he had seminars and lectures and guest speakers and films on his property under a big white tent in the afternoons. At night, they built a bonfire. I'm going to say 200 people were there, 250. Bonfire on the field. And then we just looked up and did night watch, sky watching. So Friday day, lecture seminars, looking up at night, nothing. Saturday, lectures, film seminars, looking up for hours and hours, nothing. And your neck hurts. I'm sure you've done this. After a while, after about 3 hours, you're like, you can't move your neck. Now it's the last day, Sunday. Lectures, film seminars, bonfire. We look up 2-3 hours. We're looking up nothing. I grab my car keys. Here's the best part of the story. I grab my car keys. I go, Barbara, if we leave right now, we can beat all these other cars. We can beat the Matt, the second I had the keys in my hand, the second I said that, big black craft from nowhere, from behind us, a black craft came 300-400 feet above us, all of us, 250 people around a bonfire, and it just hovered above us.
Everybody saw it.
Silent. So we all looked up, like in the X-Files when everybody looks up,
yeah.
And you're like this. It was that. Literally, it was that. I was like, what? And I said out loud, I go, what the hell is that thing?
Right.
It's over us. In the middle of this craft, right in the middle was I'm going to call it a huge crystal glass bulb. It was like this bulb. And it turned on and it glowed very bright emerald green light. So the light came on. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Then from the bulb, it then bathed all of us in this green light. It was like Morse code. It was like light, light,
right,
light. And I'm like literally thinking I'm in an X-Files episode right now.
Yeah.
Because we're all bathed in green light. all of us. It was unbelievable. And of course, I had a camera with me. But for those watching, or if you've ever had that kind of experience, you're so, and I was crying. You're so enthralled. You're like, what on earth?
You're in shock.
My camera is literally my video camera. It was one of those old ones with the cassette.
This is
it's
2008?
Like, it didn't. Yeah, I think it was an older one. It was an older one, but I didn't even think use camera because you're communing with extraterrestrials. You're not thinking, "Where's my camera? Where's my camera?" So when the light was beaming us, or bathing us, I got this message, and not in my head, but in my heart. The message was, "Hello, we're here. We're sorry we're late. We love you. We love mankind. Don't be afraid. Everything's cool. We know you've been waiting for us a long time. Be kind to one another. Be good to Mother Earth. We'll see you another time." And and that's like each flash of this green was like a thought. It was like a thought. I felt it in my heart. Honestly, I still feel it here in my heart. Then that stopped. The light went out. Then the craft just slowly moved, and bang, zoom, and it vanished over Mount Adams. So we were all crying. We were crying. We were like, "Can you believe what just happened?" That was a profound UFO. So those are my three. All right, so then we come back to my father. Now we come back to my father. So that first UFO I saw with my dad in 1970. I forgot 47 years. My dad dies in 2017 in Florida. 3 days after my father died, I live in LA. I went to a deli to get a pastrami sandwich and to think about my dad. And this is the God's honest truth, this story. I went to get a deli sandwich, think about my dad. I ordered my sandwich. The waiter walked away. I'm sitting there. A beam of light came from above into my head like this, real hard, like bang, like this, a beam of something. And then through my eyes and my brain was projected, I swear to you this is true, in the air, the 1970 UFO sighting. It was a home movie projected for me in the air, 8 inches in front of my face, color with audio, 3D hologram. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, I remember that. Well, now I see myself jumping up and down.
Yeah.
I see my dad, the UFO's here, the car, my dad's car. And it looked like God. It looked like God was the cameraman standing 5 feet in front of my father's car. It wasn't my point of view. This is very interesting. I just thought of this recently. This wasn't a memory. People have said you had a memory. No, because it wasn't from my point of view. I saw myself from camera, like God's camera was 10 feet in front of us, filming the whole scene. And this time, Matt, I'm jumping up and down and see the UFO. So my dad looks at it. Then he winked at me. My dad winked at me and said, "Come on, let's go home." Okay, so then that shut down, that little video. It stopped. It was 30 seconds. It stopped. I'm like, what the hell was that? Then I hear in my right ear, "Get a pen, you need a pen, you need a pen, you need a pen." I asked the waiter for a pen. There was a paper placemat. I'm at a deli. It's now defunct, but paper placemat. I put a pen in my hand. My hand did automatic writing, which I've never done before or since, but I did not write the following. My hand wrote the following 3 sentences. Write a book about benevolent aliens. Lead character's father knew about UFOs. And then I wrote capital A, capital T, capital C. Then my hand stopped moving. So I'm looking, I'm like, okay, what is happening to me? I just want a sandwich. What, really? And after a while, Matt, I'm looking, and then after a while, after they came, ATC. Okay, after they came, so I guess I have to write a book about benevolent aliens, okay? Lead character's father knew about UFOs after they came. So I ate my sandwich, I went home, and then every day and night for the next 8 months, I wrote this book. Now, during the writing of the book, I found out who my father was, and it's the best part of the whole story. My dad was he was top secret. He worked for the U.S. Army for 45 years, top secret. He helped invent military drones for the Army. Okay? Nobody, including my mother, knew that. We didn't know what he did. I found material that I had from the 80s in a scrapbook. I didn't know I had it. Profiled my father. It says what he did with drones. He was one of the Army's top people in the United States inventing drones from the 50s through the 80s. Okay, so that's one clue. I called my mother, still alive. I said, did Dad ever talk about UFOs? My father worked on radars, systems, missiles, and drones. Okay, that's what he did for 45 years. I said, Mom, did Dad ever talk about UFOs? Because everything my dad did had to do with the sky. The only thing my dad ever said was, I helped America win the Cold War. He never told anyone what he did specifically. So Matt, after the week after he died, my mother says, in the early 1950s, they took your father deep into the vaults at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, Army base. He was a civilian engineer. They showed your father something top secret. He came home that night. He was pale and shaking and nervous. And my mother goes, honey, what's wrong? And my father said, and she said he was almost crying. He goes, I saw something today I can never tell you or anyone about as long as I live. And my dad never did. He never did. Okay, that's another clue. Okay, so I'm going to put up the clues, and then I'm going to give you the conclusion. In Richard Dolan's book, UFOs and the National Security State, Volume 1, in the back, there is a chart of military UFO sightings.
So I've got that book then. Before you keep going, I'm like almost done that book. So tell me, what page is that on?
Okay, so it's in the back of the book, Matt. There's a glossary. It's just dates, locations, and descriptions of UFO sightings above military bases. I happen to have just recently got that book, so I'm looking at it, and at the back, I look up 1951. There was a UFO sighting on radar above Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, where my dad worked. And then again, 1952, there were 2 UFOs on radar above where my dad worked. My dad had just started working there at that time. So if he didn't see them, he had to have heard about them. So that's another clue. Now, here's the best clue of all. Oh, my dad once told me when I was a kid, he goes, I wrote a report that JFK read. I go, really, Dad? That's so cool. Can we get ice cream? I'm like, what, Ken? Yeah, so JFK read one of my dad's report. He went to the Pentagon all the time. My mother said he went to White Sands Missile Testing Range all the time. Now, here's the best one of all. Last year, Stephen Greer did a 3-hour talk at the Washington Press Club about whistleblowers that he has at the ready once the Schumer-Rounds bill, should that ever get passed by Congress, and protect whistleblowers. So he's talking for 3 hours. And Matt, the best part for me was he shows a slide at this press conference. And he said, this is 145 U.S. military bases that we have proof of through whistleblowers that worked on reverse engineering of recovered extraterrestrial craft. Okay? So there's 105 listing. So I freeze-framed my TV and I'm looking. Number 51 is Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, where my dad worked. So when I saw that, I'm like, okay, now I know. So here's the clues. My dad and I saw a huge UFO together. He had no reaction and he winked at me. My mother said he saw something top secret in the 50s and he never could tell anyone about ever his whole life. Stephen Greer proved that where my dad worked, they worked on UFO technology. Richard Dolan has UFO sightings above Fort Monmouth where my father worked. And I have proof from 1985 in a scrapbook that says my father helped invent military drones. So we put it all together after my father died, and I realized that Silver V from 1970, my dad knew what that was. He knew it perfectly lines up perfectly. Why else would he have winked at me?
You weren't
I'm at the deli. I'm at the deli 3 days after he dies, and I get this video, Matt, and now to me, it's my father from heaven. Steve Bassett, who's one of my best friends, Steve Bassett thinks it was an ET download. I go, Steve, maybe, but I think it was my dad from heaven. He had just died, right? And we were very close. And I think it was, Danny, I couldn't tell you what I did my whole life because it was top secret. But I'm dead now. I'm on the other side. I don't have an NDA with the government anymore. Remember the UFO we saw in 1970? I know I helped design it or whatever. My dad, I know he had a hand in it. I know he did. that's the story. That put me into the world of ufology, and that led to my book After They Came.
Wow. That is a wild story. Everyone I talk to in this space that has had an experience, there are always these synchronistic tales they have that lead to like these breadcrumbs or these puzzle pieces like put together. And everyone I talk to always seems they're telling the truth as they see it. There's nothing that they're hiding. They're just being forthright. And I've heard some wild stories, but everything around this topic has these synchronistic little pieces that everyone seems to have. And it's endlessly fascinating to hear that perspective that somebody has. And yeah, that's mind blowing. You must have been blown away when those pieces started falling into place.
It was, Matt, it felt, there's a Yiddish word called, I'm Jewish, a Yiddish word called beshert. And beshert, are you Jewish? I don't know if you're Jewish. Okay. A Yiddish word, beshert, one of my favorite words. Beshert means something that was meant to be, something that was meant to happen or meant to be. Like my children were beshert in my life. Okay. From the deli, when I got that download, and then I wrote my book After They Came, and I got it published. And then I'm promoting my book when it got published last year at alien conventions, various alien conventions. During these conventions, I befriended Stephen Bassett. Steve Bassett today is one of my best friends. Literally, we spent 4th of July all day together. He and I became friends. We had lunch last March. It was March 2023. And no, I'm sorry, it was May 2023. We had lunch in Hollywood, and he said, Dan, I'm a disclosure guy, 30 years. He told me all his background and what disclosure is and the movement in Washington. And I told him my Hollywood history. And at the end, we had a 3-hour lunch in Hollywood. He goes, Dan, what can we do together? And I looked up at the sky for 5 seconds. I looked back, I go, Stephen, we're going to create the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. It came out, Matt, just came out of my mouth. I didn't know I don't know what that meant. Neither did he. We didn't know what it meant. But he goes, that's it exactly. Exactly. We shook hands. So now we have 3 words. We have 3 words, Hollywood Disclosure. That's all we have. We didn't know what it was, how it was going to work, what it meant. All we had was 3 words. 4 days later, he invited me to Contact in the Desert, 2023. I had never been there before. During that weekend, he introduced me to Nick Pope and Richard Dolan and George Norrie and Ron Janix, the owner of Contact, and Ron James and Katie Page and Earl Anderson, the head of MUFON LA. And I'm meeting all these people. And Stephen and I are telling them we're going to create the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, and everyone to a person said, "Oh, I want to be in that." Every single one, I want to be in that. George Norrie grabbed my shoulder. He goes, "Danny, I want to be your very first member." I said, "George, you're the very first member." George Norrie.
Yes, big deal.
So now at the end of Contact, Matt, we have 3 words, and we have the top UFO researchers in the world. That's all. That's what we had. Now I go to my daughter, Anjali, and I go, Anjali, she's a graphic artist. I go, I need a website and a logo immediately. She creates the Hollywood HDA, Hollywood Disclosure Alliance logo, and the website. And then Stephen starts inviting his friends and colleagues. I invite my friends and colleagues, and we put them together. And it's been a year. It's been just about a year now. We have close to 200 members. You're a member.
Correct. Proud to be.
And yeah, and I'm glad to have you. Half of our members are UFO ET experiencers, researchers, or disclosure advocates like Stephen and Danny Sheehan. We just got Travis Walton the other day. I met him at Contact. I spent an hour with Travis Walton, man.
Wow.
For me, it was like seeing one of the Beatles. It was just so cool. Anyway, and the other half is our Hollywood writers, producers, directors. It was my idea. I thought of it. I'm the chairman of it. I run it. My daughter helps me. Stephen helps me, but I run it. And it's a networking group. When people ask me to describe it, I call it Match.com for ufologists. It's ufologists and Hollywood producers. These are 2 disparate groups historically, like chocolate and peanut butter, but they work well together. And in our Slack channel, we're going to have when we get more money, we're nonprofit, 501c3. We need more money from donations. We've had 2 events so far, and I'm planning a 3rd event in September. But our Slack channel, we have 75 members in the Slack channel, and they talk to each other. Hey, Ancient Aliens season 29 is casting. They're looking for women who have been abducted and had their fetuses taken. And people who have a new book, like me with a new book, or say, hey, my new book is out, check it out. Or this show is casting, or documentary filmmakers go, I need military experts to talk about UFOs, thermonuclear turnoffs at military bases. So it's a very robust Slack channel. And that's where the UFO people and the Hollywood people are talking back and forth. It's a new thing. Again, we're only a year old, but everyone's embraced it who's into this topic. And I get emails every day. Can I join? Can I join? Can I join? I hit a nerve, but to get to your question, I went to get a deli sandwich. I went to get a pastrami sandwich. My father sends me a vision from heaven. I read a book. I meet Steve Bassett. I create the Hollywood disclosure lines. Then I become the publicist for the Contact in the Desert. And then last year I wrote, and it just came out the other day, My Paranormal Life, my brand new book, which is getting some good buzz. So all of these things have been, but it's the Yiddish word beshert. In the last few years, they've just lined up for me as though they were meant to happen.
Fascinating. Yeah, it is so interesting to see these groups of people come together, that it's like a grassroots effort almost. People are brought together through their enthusiasm and their fascination with these topics. It's everyone I meet within this space is always really cool and intelligent and just is looking for the truth. And everyone seems to have a piece of the puzzle, and everyone brings their piece to the table, and it's just such a wild, intellectually stimulating topic. Some of the best conversations I have are around this topic. It's one of the reasons I started the podcast, because I just wanted to continue to educate myself. In order to do that, you need to speak to other people that have had experiences like yourself and have done decades of research, like the Richard Dolans of the world and the Linda Moulton Howells of the world, that have dedicated themselves and are relentless researchers to getting to the truth. You're talking about royalty when it comes to researching with these people.
Exactly.
And they've done the heavy lifting for a lot of us out there, so that we could sift away through a lot of the, I guess, the so-called nonsense for which this topic is inundated with. But yeah, what you've created there with the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance that's going to turn into something extremely valuable for humanity in the future. Because like Steven said, I think he said this on my podcast, Steve Bassett said, once disclosure happens and we reach this tipping point, the thirst and the hunger for information is going to be insatiable. And there will need to be platforms, there will need to be content, there will need to be experts to help disseminate that information. And I think that's one of the things you've started to create here.
I agree with you. Yesterday, I did an hour Zoom with some filmmakers in Canada. They want to do something called ET Encounters New Voices. And they want to interview people who are not the Richard Dolans and the Nick Popes, like the next gen, young people who have had experience. I said, that's fantastic. That's a great idea. And they said, Dan, can HDA help us? And I'm like, absolutely. So I told them to write a treatment. I'll get it to producers and people I know in Hollywood. It's starting to happen, Matt. It really is starting. Whether or not, listen, my mother's going to be 90 in a few weeks. She goes, I hope I live to see disclosure. I want to see disclosure. My mother, because she knows I'm a fan of this stuff. Hopefully disclosure will happen in our lifetimes or her lifetime. And HDA is becoming a media hub, like a media resource or like a hub where people go. I get wild emails all over the world in the last year, all over the world, every country you could think of. A lot of these people want to tell me their stories, which are fine. I don't know what am I supposed to do with these? I can't embrace every story. I have my own stories. I'm trying to get a movie made out of after they came. I'm literally working on the screenplay. And I have producers I want to pitch for my book. What you said is very sweet. It's a clearinghouse. It's a central sort of hub. But the fact that no one ever put Hollywood and ufology, the closest really is Spielberg with Close Encounters or E.T. really. Or J. Abrams has his documentary that came out last year. Or like M. Night Shyamalan with Signs. There are some Hollywood heavyweights who are in tune with what's happening. We all know Spielberg has an inside track. Spielberg was tight with Dr. J. Allen Hynek.
He was in the
Close
movie.
Encounters. Paul Hynek's a good friend of mine, his son. So Spielberg absolutely got an inside track. He wrote Close Encounters. It was called Watch the Skies. I think he wrote the script in 1975. So Steven's been, and I met him. I spent an afternoon with him. Nice guy. And I knew his mother had a deli restaurant a block from my house. My mother and I used to have lunch with Spielberg's mother many times. My son Steven, you know what? My son Steven was here yesterday with Tom Cruise. Oh, really? Mrs. Spielberg? Isn't that? And tell me more. So yeah, I think HDA can become something big. I didn't create it for myself or an ego or to be, yeah, Dan, you're a genius. I created it because it came to me. It was given to me, and I was blessed to take the ball. Apparently, I was the missing link between Hollywood and Pope and Dolan and Bassett and Ron Jr. I was the missing link. I was the guy who had a foot in both fences. None of them did. People have said, Dan, I didn't know there were UFO publicists. I said, I think I invented that. I'm pretty sure I invented that.
Yeah, it's so true. Let me backtrack for a second. You brought up disclosure, and I wanted to maybe dig into that for a minute, if you don't mind. People talk about disclosure and what does that look like. I'm of the opinion that I don't think there's ever going to be an overt announcement of the phenomenon. What it seems like to me, what has happened and what is continuing to happen is that the sightings, the reporting is increasing. Our ability to report these things is increasing. But also, I'm of the opinion that the frequency of the sightings is definitely increasing. That's my opinion. And so disclosure seems to be happening organically. More people are coming out. There are more shows about it. You just brought up the Netflix series that Spielberg did, Encounters, I think.
Yes.
That's a major show that was on a major streaming network. And so to me, disclosure is going to continue as this slow drip process with these occasional little jumps. Like when the David Grush came out last year, that to me was a big jump. And then
was a big jump. Yeah.
How do you see it? Do you see an overt announcement, or do you see it continuing with these jumps and more awareness?
It seems to me, everything you said, I think is exactly true. But it seems to me since 2017, when the front page New York Times article, Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal, that was a big one. That was a big door that opened. It was like, hey, world, our government and military are well aware of UFOs. And Project Blue Book shut down in December 1969. Okay, in 2017, the New York Times says, hey, the military is still looking into this. And what? The military is still looking into UFOs? They never stopped. So that was huge. Grush was huge. There have been the 3 Navy videos that was related to the New York Times from Lou Elizondo. That was huge. Look, my daughter and I watched Skinwalker Ranch, that show. We this is the greatest show ever. There's a portal. There's like a portal above Skinwalker Ranch. They've proved it 50 times. There's a portal right there.
So let's talk about Skinwalker Ranch here, because for some people that are watching this, they may not understand the difference between that show and a lot of the other kind of shows they peddle on. I don't want to badmouth any channel here, on that channel. But that show to me is very different. They're taking a very scientific approach and they're finding things. And the fact that it's on the air is something that never would have happened 20 years ago. Yes. What Brandon Fugel is doing there is, in my opinion, it's revolutionary. It's entertainment, yes, but it's also, I think, a very real thing that's happening there. That's a strange place. Have you been there before?
I've not. I've invited Travis Taylor into HDA through Nick Pope, and he won't write back. But the Skinwalker Ranch TV show, it is a TV show, like you said, but he and Eric Bard, the 2 scientists, these are genius scientists. Travis and Eric are genius scientists. And every week they trot out their unbelievable instrument, and they get that 1.6 gigahertz audio signal. That's an audio signal. The Earth doesn't just generate a 1.6 gigahertz. My daughter and I think there's a crashed UFO buried in the mesa there, in the mountain. There's something under. They've proven there's something under the
Something is
ground that's
there.
metallic. There's something metallic under the ground. They've proven that many times, and it emits when it's disturbed. It emits a signal. That show, perhaps, is a little dribble, like you said earlier, breadcrumbs. That show maybe. Look, Travis Taylor was part of what, Arrow?
Yes.
He was part of Arrow. So a TV show, but he knows what's going on in the military. I think on that show, I think he's not revealing all that he knows.
Oh, for sure.
I think you could almost see, like when he sees, what the crap is that? I think he knows way more, but the government's, I think they're allowing him to do a little bit to test the waters. So that show is baby steps into disclosure. Steve Bassett wants Joe Biden to go on TV yesterday and say, ladies and gentlemen, something to tell you. It's been 80 years. Extraterrestrial life exists. We've known about it since 47, Roswell. It's absolutely true. It was national security. We didn't feel that the general public should know. We didn't want to cause a panic. They're here. They've always been here. We'll keep you posted. The problem with that, Steve Bassett, he wants that. He's wanted that for the last 30 years. So actually, 96. I said, Stephen, you're almost 30 years in. He wants that right away. Nick Pope, who gave a lecture in February at Conscious Life Expo, says, be careful what you wish for with disclosure. He goes, I happen to know that many races of extraterrestrials are demonic, and they're not pleasant. And it could be why the government hasn't told us, because these are not the aliens in my book after they came, which are benevolent. He goes, I know that some of these are demonic. Be careful what you wish for. That's Nick Poe. So we have Bassett says disclosure is going to be unicorns and rainbows. It will be dancing horrors in the street. And Nick Pope, he goes, no, be careful. Maybe we don't want to know. It's not going to be good. So somewhere in between there is the truth. Trump, a few weeks ago, apparently, was talking about, the UFOs. It's very interesting to me, very interesting. He's hinting around it. Bassett thinks that could happen. That could happen, the way things stand right now. But there are two tracks. One is the official, the president or the king of England or prime minister of Israel or Putin. Someone goes on TV and says, okay, yeah, extraterrestrials are here. The Pope, yeah, they're here. We know they're here. We have proof for 100 years. We know all about it. That's big D disclosure. But what you said, the drips and the slow and steady, is the New York Times and the Navy videos and David Grush and Skinwalker Ranch TV show. Those are the breadcrumbs. People like you who are podcasters, Contact in the Desert, event, 3,000 people discussing this. The top leaders in the world discussing this for 3,000 people in the audience. It's moving forward. And the media is laughing less, right? Mm-hmm. In the past, little green men, a UFO was seen in Indiana. Little green men, yeah, Sally, isn't that funny? Little green, that's all they ever did. Now they're like, a UFO was seen, and it's a report. It's news reporting now. They're laughing less. So either the president is going to go on, or Skinwalker Ranch, they're going to dig a hole in that mesa, and there's going to be a flying saucer there. And then they'll say, okay, we have it. It's proof. Mm-hmm. We're hurtling toward one of those conclusions in the next year to 5 years, I would say.
So here's a question for you. And you're connected to a lot of people, hardcore researchers, experiencers. Have you talked to them about their opinions on why it seems to be gaining steam right now? I'm sure there's a lot of different factors that go into that. But I'm interested in if there is a reason, like a bigger reason, why disclosure seems to be ramping up, like these breadcrumbs are increasing. The interest in this topic is increasing. Is there another reason? Is that being pushed along by people behind the scenes? Or is it being pushed along a little bit more by the phenomenon itself, by showing itself a little bit more often? Have you had that conversation with anyone?
Not really. But last year I read something interesting. Dr. Avi Loeb from Harvard, he said the reason disclosure hasn't happened yet is because the aliens, they have told us, we don't want to be disclosed yet. We don't want you guys to disclose us. We're not ready yet. Think about that. Of all the reasons, panic in the streets, right? We don't want Russia to know what we have. Russia doesn't want to know what we have with tech. Free energy from aliens would eliminate gas, coal, lithium. It would change all the energy things. These are all the reasons historically why we haven't been told. What if it was the Roswell aliens in 47 told President Truman, don't disclose this. Your people aren't ready. We're not ready. We'll let you know what we, the aliens, when we want to be disclosed. So when I read that from Avi Loeb, that makes so much sense to me. Perhaps they themselves are controlling disclosure. But like you said, there's more and more sightings. There's more and more activity. Perhaps they're preparing us. Also, everyone on the planet Earth has a cell phone now. So everyone can take a photo or videos. Historically, there were a lot of UFOs in America in the 70s. A lot of UFO activity in the 70s. Who was walking around with a camera, with movie cameras?
Nobody.
You didn't walk around with nobody walks around with a camera. I think it's a confluence of things happening, but I love what Avi Loeb says is they don't want to be disclosed yet. To me, that makes a tremendous amount of sense.
Yeah. And if you're an advanced race of beings that have been around for a lot longer than us, the James Webb Telescope now is telling us that there are galaxies out there that are far older than ours, that could have developed intelligent life, that could have gotten past these growing pains and then went out and populated amongst the stars through advanced physics that they're undoubtedly discovering along the way. So if that's happened and they've observed other civilizations getting to this point, that maybe that's the last interesting thing to go and look at, is watch civilizations over this 50,000 year period go from complex language to, then you get to this next jump where they get to the nuclear age and they get to the technological age and they're creating quantum computing, and they're probably looking and saying, all right, they're getting real close here. Maybe we'll start showing ourselves a little bit more. So if you think that's happening and you assume that's true, and I think that is definitely a possibility, then you could also assume that they're in control of letting this out, and they could end it tomorrow. If one UFO is real, if one photo is real, and it does exist, it could be disclosed tomorrow. They could do a mass flyover over the Super Bowl or whatever it is, and they could end it tomorrow. But that doesn't happen. It's always these little faraway lights, or somebody gets a picture of a craft, or these stories are out there. So there has to be some level of control that they are maintaining to not overtly come out. Do you think that's true at all?
Yeah, I think it absolutely is correct. Yeah, like you said, they've been very prominent on the over the earth since the 40s. Now, Roswell was 47. The Battle of Los Angeles was 42. There was a UFO over Santa Monica in 42 that our military shot. I think it's like 11,000 rounds of shell. There's an incredible amount of shell at this UFO over Santa Monica, Pacific Ocean. And it didn't come down into the ocean. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, keep shooting. Yeah, all right. That's 42. The Foo Fighters in World War II, Foo Fighters were 43, 44. There's a document, FDR wrote a document about these are, let's try to find out because the technology will be beneficial to us. That was before he died. He died in 45. He died before Roswell happened. They've been very prominent at least since the 40s. At least since the 40s. Why don't they do the Super Bowl or the White House lawn or Times Square on New Year's Eve? It's their call. Exactly what you said, man. They could do it today. They could do it right now. It's their call. They are in control. We are little ants. They're the geniuses from the future, and we're like these little mice, and they're looking at us like, oh, those stupid humans. What are they doing down there? Yeah, that's what I think. I would love some kind of mass event. Separate but related. Tomorrow, I have my own podcast. It's called Live from Hollywood. It's Paranormal Tonight. Every Thursday night, including tomorrow night. It's on the UnX network. Whitley Strieber is on that network. Tomorrow night, I'm interviewing Britt Elders. Do you know who Britt Elders is?
No, I'm going to write that down.
Okay, so I'm interviewing Britt Elders. She's a member of HDA.
Mm-hmm.
Britt Elders and her husband, Lee Elders, in the 70s, spent years studying the Billy Meyer case in Switzerland. You know the Billy Meyer?
I am, and I've heard mixed reviews of that case. I know there's people that 100% think it's real, and then I've heard other people saying that has been well debunked. And so I'd love to get your opinion on that.
Okay, so I just read Britt. Britt has a brand new book. I'm interviewing her tomorrow night. Let me see if I have the book there. Hold on one second. Britt republished this book from the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
It just came out the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She and her husband and Colonel Wendell Stevens,
Yes.
who was an Army guy, they spent 7 years studying the photos, the home movie, film, and the materials. And these are the best UFO photos in the history of the world. And every single thing that Billy Meyer ever said or did is absolutely 100% true. It's true. He was a one-armed guy. These are UFOs hundreds of feet in the air above mountains of Switzerland. They said there's no way a one-armed guy with no education is creating these amazing UFOs, hanging them on wires up hundreds of feet in the air above the mountains of Switzerland. It's not possible. These photos and films have been studied by scientists for years and years. They've never been debunked, according to Britt Elders.
Mm.
So I'm going to interview her tomorrow. The photos in this book, Matt, are unbelievable.
I've seen
they're crystal clear. They look like they're better than Spielberg's Close Encounter movie. They're perfect. And you think, when I just finished this book the other day, I read it in 3 days. I'm like, why is this not the cover of the New York Times? Why is Billy Meyer, he's still alive.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, I think he's in his late 80s. Why is Billy Meyer not on the cover of tomorrow's New York Times saying, I've been contacted since 1975. They've given me they've given him predictions of the future events, things that have happened. I don't recall exactly, like hurricanes and tornadoes and volcanoes and things that later happened. These photos are incredible. They're just crystal clear, perfect photos. And he was not out for fame. He's a one-armed farmer. He was poor guy. He never made money from these. He didn't make money.
Mm-hmm.
He got ridiculed. He got death threats. The military used to threaten him. This guy did not do this for publicity or money. He said, I'm being visited. I have a relationship with extraterrestrials from the Pleiades. They told him they're from the Pleiades. And they said, we will allow you to take certain photos of us from time to time over the years. I can't wait to talk to Britt Elders. But for me, reading this book, Matt, I'm like, I absolutely believe this stuff is real.
Yeah, I was always fascinated with that story. There's actually quite a bit of material about him. You could just YouTube him, and obviously there's people out there debunking him and saying that it's all hogwash. But I always found that story very interesting because there's a lot on there. And I also found it interesting that Wendell Stevens, who I think was a very well-respected researcher, he spent all that time with him, and he thought it was real. And so when you get an endorsement from somebody like that, I at least pay attention a little bit. It at least intrigues me, because those people have been involved in this subject for a very long time, and they've probably seen it all. They've probably heard it all. And so their ability to sift through information is sharper than the average. So that always intrigued me, that case.
Wendell Stevens hired Lee and Britt Elders, a married couple in the 70s, hired them to study this. At the time, they had a company, I forget the name of it, they had a company that verified data for the FBI and the CIA. They were all about all kinds of analysis, film, photography, metallurgy, audio. The Elders company, they analyzed data. This is like in the 70s. This is like early computers, but they analyzed data for the CIA and the FBI. That was their client. They did major things for major, huge companies and the government. Now they're doing Billy Meyer. And according to the book, Britt and Lee said, this is nonsense. UFOs, it's going to be absolute insanity, but we like Wendell Stevens was a personal friend. They meet Billy Meyer. They spend 7 years on and off in Switzerland. They said, this is real. This is real. They put it through every scientific method known to mankind. And scientists repeatedly said, these photos are not faked. These are, because the shadows are correct, the lighting is correct, the distance from the camera lens is correct. There's no wires. There's no Photoshop in 1975.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have digital Photoshop back then. And to me, man, I highly recommend you check out this book. But when the whole time I'm reading it, I'm like, why is this not the... Billy Meyer needs a publicist, right?
Right.
The guy needs a publicist. He needs to be on the front page of the New York Times.
Yeah. I often wonder, so it's interesting. I heard Danny Sheehan talk about this. I think it was on the Night Shift podcast about how there is clear videos, there's clear footage of alien beings, of craft. And then he said something to the like of, how graphic does it need to be in order for people to really understand what's happening here? And so my thought is sometimes, like, when you have these really clear photos and you have these wild stories, and then the analysis is done where it doesn't seem like it's fake, is it too graphic? Is it too clear for people to just handle? Because I'll admit, part of my brain just says, as soon as I see something like that, I'm just like, wow, that's really clear. And you always hear people say, like, where's the clear photos? Where's this? Where's that? And then you get one, and then your brain's almost like, that's too good to be true, sort of a thing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's why the masses of people, I'm not saying that to be derogatory, the masses of people think aliens and UFOs are BS, probably. They're BS.
Mm-hmm.
Why? They've never seen a UFO. Well, if you've seen a good UFO with your own eyes and you know it's not a plane or a helicopter, and you look at it and you go, okay, like me, I've seen 4. What the hell is that? Wow. Okay, that's above and beyond the norm. Or you have some kind of paranormal encounter. I know people in the HDA who have been abducted. I know quite a few people. They've been abducted, some of them negatively. I have one friend who was been taken by Pleiadians on and off since the age of 5. He just turned 60. And he said they're kind and loving and warm. They're teachers. He said they're exactly like in my book after they came. Because Dan, how did you describe them so perfectly? I said, I have no idea. What were we just saying?
Oh, about disclosure and abductions, the Billy Meyer case you were talking.
Oh, yeah. So unless it sounds like you've seen things or had some
I have never seen, so I have never seen anything. I've never seen a UFO. I've never seen a ghost, but there's a part of me that just thinks that there's something going on there. So that's why I think my rational brain, when I hear about this stuff, I still have this red flag that sticks up, right? Because I've never seen anything. I would love to see something. I think that would help solidify my suspicions and my beliefs. But really what I am is a researcher. I love hearing people that have had these experiences so that I could start to get a piece of what they have. Because I think unless you've had that, knowing that experience, it's very hard to wrap your head around this. Even if you've seen the best photos, even if you've talked to the best researchers, there's still that little red flag up there. And yeah, I've never
exactly. You're in good company. Steve Bassett, Nick Pope, and Richard Dolan. They've never seen a UFO either. The top guys in the world, right? They've never seen me, Schmucky Dan. I don't know, nobody knows me. I've seen 4. I saw one at Contact in the Desert a month ago. I'm like, oh, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in real life. So when you have an encounter or an experience, that it seems to me that your mind, okay, maybe there is something, because you're more open-minded to it. But by and large, extraterrestrials, ETs, and UFOs, it's something that's in the movies, and they're usually evil. They usually come to kill us or eat us. War of the Worlds, Independence Day, right? They come to kill, the famous Twilight Zone episode, which I love, To Serve Man, right? They come to eat us. There's very few films that have been benevolent aliens. E.T., Close Encounters, The Arrival, and The Abyss. Those are the 4 that my colleagues and I have identified. Out of the thousands of movies about aliens and UFOs, 4 say, yeah, they're okay, they're nice. And everyone else, they're coming to kill us or eat us. That's fiction. All of those films are fiction. That's why HDA, we're hoping to generate the next era of movies and TV shows based on real-life encounters from real-life people. whether they're good, bad, or ugly. They could say, Joe Smith in Arkansas, this really happened to this guy. And he's been a lie detector. He's passed everything. And when I was with Travis Walton, he was telling us how he and his brother and his friends, they had to undergo all kinds of lie detectors over and over again because no one could believe that he was abducted. They thought it was a hoax. He said, he did lie detectors over and over again. This guy was abducted. He was missing who goes missing for 5 days on purpose, comes back, loses weight, you're disoriented, you're dehydrated, you don't know what the hell's happening, and you're not seeking money or fame. Who does that? Why would you do that? This is a logger, an uneducated logger in Arizona. Why would you make up a story? He didn't make up a story.
Something happened.
So, yeah. So the more people that have an experience, like you said earlier, man, unless they land on the White House lawn or the Super Bowl, it's going to be a slow dribble. I like what you said about the breadcrumbs and puzzle pieces. All the people in HDA, man, every single person in there has at least a story to tell. And no two stories are the same. And you put all these puzzle pieces. That's why Contact in the Desert or Alien Con or these conventions are interesting. These people who go there, I was on the news last night here in LA. I said, these conventions are not Comic-Con. This is not Mr. Spock and Sulu, people dressed up like Captain Kirk. What's that called when you dress up? When you do role play?
Yeah, live action role play, LARPing.
Yeah. UFO conferences, by and large, these are real researchers and scientists and authors and filmmakers and lecturers. Dr. Avi Loeb, for example, or experiencers, Travis Walton, Whitley Strieber was at Contact. These are people who are there to share their stories and their knowledge with others who have had experiences and to try to put our heads together and go, what's happening? What's really going on here? But I love what you said about puzzle pieces. Everyone in this field has a puzzle piece to share.
Excellent. Dan, this has been an absolutely fascinating conversation. I'm glad that we did this. This is really cool. Tell people how they can find you, how they can find your books and what you're up to.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me on. I have 4 books out. One is My Paranormal Life. Right here, Supernatural Stories of a Hollywood Insider. We didn't really get to this, but this is my UFOs, but it's also ghosts and poltergeists and angelic voices and spirit guides and remarkable coincidences and just paranormal things that have happened to me from the age of 5. So this just came out, My Paranormal Life. This book just came out the other day called 5. It's a little dark fiction novella. It's about a serial killer who gets reincarnated over and over again throughout time. God knows. My mother goes, where did that come from? I don't know. I don't understand. I have no idea. This is my baby. This is my lottery ticket after they came. This one, I'm literally working on my screenplay for a movie. I'm hoping. This is the book that got me into the ufology movement.
Very cool.
And Flirting with Fame, back there, the green one, that's my Hollywood book. All of my books are at danharary.author.com. Dan, Harary, author.com. All the backstory, you can order them, all the photos, all that's there. Separately, and in addition to, if you're interested in the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance that we talked about, that's hollywooddisclosurealliance.org, O-R-G. And all our members are there. Our mission statement is there. We have a donation page. If you'd like to become a member, it tells you how to do that. And thank you for having me. Are you in New Jersey now?
I'm in Florida now. I will be in New Jersey next week. You're familiar with Long Beach Island, I'm sure?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll be on Long Beach Island next week with my family.
Okay. Do you ever get out to L.A.?
I've been to LA a couple times, not in recent times though, but yes, I have been there. If I do find my way out there, we'll have to get together, have lunch.
Yeah. Let me know. And then I will be in New Jersey August 3rd. Ready for this? My 50th high school reunion. Wow. That's how old I am. I just turned 68. My 50th high school reunion is August 3rd, and then my mom's 90th birthday in New Jersey. 5th. So
wow. Amazing. Congratulations on everything.
Thanks, brother.
I'll put
You
links.
too, man.
Yeah, I'll put links to everything in the description below. And yeah, if you want to hang on for a sec, I'll just chat with you. But Thanks everybody for tuning in. See you next time.
Thank you very much.